this list is sure to give you some new, fresh, and exciting stocking ideas. Liven up your tank a little bit and really give you something a lot more interesting to look at than the basic freshwater fish that a lot of these places offer. Bristlenose, obviously they are a smaller variety of Pleco. They don't get to the size of, say, the common Pleco or Royals or Green Phantom. They stay 6 to 7 inches long. That is still sort of a large fish for a lot of people's aquariums though, and so that's why I'm leaning more towards a 55. But if you do have a breeding pair of bristlenose Plecos, you can also add other fish in there. You can almost make it a community tank as long as the other co-inhabitants aren't going to be anything that are going to really go after the eggs if your goal is to breed them. Once we hit that 55-gallon mark, we can really start considering some larger fish. So my first suggestion officially for a 55-gallon, I'm gonna go with the zigzag eel, otherwise known as the peacock eel or spiny eel. They're not as rare as a lot of the other eels because they don't get as large as the other eels, and I imagine they might be a little bit easier to breed, but these guys are super cool. They don't grow extremely fast, and also they're not going to get to the size of, say, a tire track eel or a fire eel or something like that. So in a 55, we could easily keep one of these guys that are going to top out at 12-14 inches. And now I have one myself. I keep him in a 75 again with the Albino threadfin AQUA. I keep him with a Sagol Biker, and he seems to be friends with the Sagol Biker, and he follows him around, and the biker really, he doesn't seem to mind at all, which is really cool. If you are, you know, sort of an eel guy, but again, you don't want that 3-foot just massive size, a 55-gallon is going to do you just fine for a zigzag eel. Now, and for all my cichlid people out there, don't think that I forgot about you. If you are a cichlid person, we got you covered. Everybody usually fills their 55s with a random variety of African or South American cichlids, and that's okay, but what if we honed in on some very cool individuals? Now, my first suggestion is going to be a blood orange parrotfish. Now, you guys have probably seen a lot of my blood orange parrotfish on the channel already if you've been watching some of the previous videos, but they are true hybrid fish. They're a mix between a Severum and a red devil, which I thought was really cool because, you know, I don't have room to dedicate one entire tank to a single fish, which is pretty much what you have to do when you get something like a red devil. And so for people who don't, you know, have 60 different tanks to where, oh, you know, if 10 of them only have one aggressive fish and it's not going to impact you in any way, then you can get something that is a little more mild. So he's still aggressive, but only to fish that are smaller than him. I had him in my 75, but the threadfin AQUA, I would just beat the crap out of him. And when I'd move him to a smaller tank with smaller fish, then he would bully the smaller fish. And so right now I just have him in the 55 frog tank with some other convicts in there that kind of keep him in check. So it's working for now. But just know, just because it's mixed doesn't mean all of the aggression is gone. It's still a cichlid at the end of the day, hybrid or not. Now, my next suggestion is going to be an albino threadfin AQUA. Now, the threadfin AQUAs, they're not going to get as big as something as, you know, say a Jack Dempsey or a Green Terror. So you can pull that off having them in a tank such as a 55. I have mine in a 75, but that's because I have other things in there, and that's sort of my show tank. But you could easily set up a 55 and have one in there. The only problem is when it comes to putting cichlids in tanks, a lot of times the aggression, that's what, you know, the first thing that comes to a lot of people's minds when they think of cichlids is aggressive fish. That is true, so a lot of times people will overstock their tanks to mitigate the aggression. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to put the focus on, you know, one beautiful cichlid. And so now, has that limited me incredibly in what else I can put in that tank? Yes, because He even will go after the opaline gourami, even though it's not, you know, truly a cichlid. But he doesn't mind the Sagol Biker. He does not mind the zigzag eel. And so you're always going to have aggression when it comes to cichlids that you have to deal with. But, you know, what if we did something different and we had a tank that was focused just on one type of cichlid instead of having 30 different ones all zooming around? Now, for our next section is going to be 75-gallon tanks. There's some good stocking ideas for this. We have to start out with the aforementioned Sagol Biker. Now, these guys are really cool because when you think of biker, usually, again, you're thinking of a 36-inch beast. The Senegal's, while they are a bit more common, it's for a good reason. It's because these guys will top out at 14, 16 inches. Really, it varies, I believe, depending on diet, tank quality, all that good stuff. But these guys, they're going to top out around 14, 16 inches. And, you know, 75 gallons, probably you'd want the bare minimum for one of them. Of course, we'd want to see, you know, each of these options in the biggest tank that you can provide them and keep inside your house under your certain living conditions. But 75 gallons, you know, if anything, grow it out. But it's always good, do your research and plan ahead. You know, a lot of people, they make the mistake of, let me get this fish and then I will buy a tank later for it, and for some people that works out fine. Me personally, I'm going to be starting a fish retail shop in my area, so a lot of the things that I have right now, I have plans for where they're going to go. Everybody's going to be all right. So just when we get into these bigger fish in these bigger tank sizes, just please keep in mind, because you don't want to get into a tricky situation where you don't know where, you know, to put this 20-inch beast of a thing that you bought, you know, a year and a half ago. So yeah, just keep that in mind as we go through some of these bigger ones. Now, the Sagol Bikers, they're really cool. Okay, they are really, really cool. They are literally in between a fish and an eel. I've seen albinos, and then I've seen the normal green types available, and while the albinos are cool, the green types, they just look so prehistoric. You know, they have that really just mean, just like old dinosaur look to them that I think is really appealing and can spice up any aquarium. Now, it probably doesn't even have to be said, do not put a Sagol Biker with anything smaller than itself. When I tell you that my Sagol Biker ate a tire track eel that was the same size as him, I'm not lying. That is why I'm so surprised that him and my peacock eel get together so well. They'll swim around together. He doesn't mind him at all. Second day, I put a tire track eel. It's double the size of my peacock eel and the same size as the biker in there. It was, you know, like 2 mornings after I found bits and chunks of him floating at the top, which was insane. I felt terrible, but who would have thought that would have happened? Be careful. These are ultra predators and should be treated as such. Now, you don't have to worry too much about them messing up your aquascape or digging or anything like that. They do a little bit of the geophagus thing where they kind of go and they'll pick up debris and stuff from the bottom and sort of filter it through, but they're not going to mess up any aquascape, so don't worry about that. My next suggestion, which I have 3 for the 75 gallons, but the second one I just wanted to mention real quick. So you could use a 75 as a grow out for a group of angelfish or a group of discus to pair off naturally and breed. So if you guys aren't familiar with breeding angelfish or discus, it's kind of similar in the process. Obviously, discus are a lot harder. It's a lot more high stakes because if water parameters change even a little bit through the process, they could just go and eat all of their eggs because they think, you know, they want to make room to breed again. And so that's a whole different video, doing water changes and all that while breeding discus. But similar to angelfish, discus pair off naturally. You get a group of them, they say get 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever, and you let them grow together, and then they will pair off naturally. So a 75 gallon is a very versatile tank to where you can have a ton of medium-sized fish in there that are juveniles that will pair off to then where you can take the pairs and then separate them into their own breeding tanks. I just wanted to throw that out there. We have one more really good suggestion for the 75 after this, but I just wanted to throw that out there for you guys if you really wanted a functional 75 gallon tank to work for you. You know, if you do have the space and the means to dedicate one larger tank to an individual fish or just a couple fish, we could go the route of red devils or flower horns perhaps. And now, you know, those you're probably gonna want, you know, just sand, not too many plants, no Amazon swords, nothing like that. And really, tank mates are gonna be extremely limited, even in a 4-foot tank like this. But if you do have the space and you don't mind dedicating it just to one larger type fish, a red devil or a flower horn would be great. So that is my last suggestion for the 75. Don't worry, it doesn't end here. We got 125 and 250 plus to go over next. Now, for 125 gallons, what are we gonna do for the stocking? How about a tire track or a fire eel? These are the eels that are going to get to be 3 foot long. Now, are you gonna put 6 or 7 of them in there? No. But if you're looking just to get, you know, you want a tire track, you want a fire eel, you want some of the larger type eels that are going to top out at that 36-inch mark, well, then this is going to be a good tank for you to start with. So the tire track eels and fire eels, very captivating. They are amazing. They're some of the best freshwater eels that you can come across. They're awesome. They'll go through tubes if you put them in there. A lot of people put in the PVC. Carnivorous, of course, they're gonna want the brine shrimp, the bloodworms, and a lot of times we see them kind of have their own personality and sort of play their own character, which is really cool. So then for our next suggestion, a 125 is now going to open up a wide range of plecos for you. So a lot of people, of course, we've already made a video discussing about how people will just kind of go and get a common pleco for their 10, 20, 30 gallon from PetSmart or something. So we've already went over that. So a 125 is finally going to open up a adequate sized space for most of these plecos. For your commons that are going to get 24 inches, perfect. For your royals, your green phantoms, anything like that, this is going to be a perfect tank size. So you can easily get 1 or 2 in here. Of course, we don't want to overstock them because keep in mind, these are going to be huge armor plated beasts at some point, but this opens up the possibility for you to comfortably keep this, guys. Now, for the last section that we're going to go over today, we've got 250 plus, is a Chinese Marble GOI. I'm lucky enough to have a juvenile right now, but these things get absolutely massive. So these things, they come from China. They like warm water, obviously, and they turn into some of the nastiest, meanest looking fish that I can even think of in the freshwater realm. Mine is tiny right now, and it easily holds its own fish. I mean, easily 3-4 times its size. So I'm really looking forward to see the growth rate on this Marble GOI, because my plan is to put it into a huge eel pit when he grows out. Really make sure that you have the means and the resources, do the upkeep on a tank that's going to be this massive, or with a fish that is as big as some of the ones that we're getting into later in this video. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to do your water changes. I will see you guys in the next one.